So I missed covering this due to the fact that I've been busy with cat emergencies this week, so I'm a few days behind the times. But apparently, the rumor mill is in full swing about this potential reboot of the show, in the sense that season two and beyond, particularly season three, is going to see them start to try to course correct in major ways. However, I have to say that even though the rumors sound interesting and sound convincing, I'm not convinced that this is actually the case because of the simple fact that they're not going to do a course correction after the first two seasons have aired. They're going to be doing any course correction that needs to be done now, behind the scenes. They just won't announce anything until after season two airs for the reasons that we previously stated during the videos we talked about, where they're potentially firing Payne and McKay, but they're not going to announce anything publicly because of the awards stuff, because they don't want to ruin their chances at Emmys. But it is, the rumor mill is in full swing that these guys are getting demoted, and then they're going to bring in some more experienced showrunners. Now, this rumor is that they are doing a reboot. Now, once again, it's a rumor. I'm using bountycomics.com, which, as I've said before, is a fun place to read from time to time, but you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. And they are leaning heavily into Nerdrotic, who is one of the individuals who I have a lot of respect for him and the coverage that he does, but he definitely swings hard for the fence on the whole, you know, female woke agenda politics, stuff. Whereas I'm more of just, it was just bad writing. And yeah, there is some of that going on, but I don't buy into the all all things are woke all the time thing. We'll get into it. If you're new here, I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfell, the bearded dwarven princess. You need to subscribe, you need to hit the bell icon so you get more updates in the Rings of Power series and beyond. I'm also doing House of the Dragon, Star Wars Andor, the upcoming Willow show, The Wheel of Time, books, shows, a bunch of other stuff. I play video games here. I'm a game developer, I'm a writer. Lots of different stuff happens here on this YouTube channel, so stick around for all of it. Thanks to these people for their support. You too can do the same. We'll talk about that at the end. In the meantime, however, let's dive into this rumor mill. So this follows on the heels of Chris Gore talking about the showrunners being sidelined and basically getting pushed back from being showrunners, and back to the writers' room because first season was so dismally received that they're trying to do some sort of course correction behind the scenes, but they can't announce it because they don't want to ruin their chances at Emmy nominations. I've talked about this on my channel in a couple of videos. Nerdrotic apparently theorizes that he's also heard that they're going on for a full reboot with the series. They're going to try to pretend that the last 2 months didn't happen, roll out the publicity, maybe roll out some more influencers to try to get people to binge the Rings of Power. Good luck, he says. He says, "What if I told you?" And this is the part where he kind of loses me a little bit, because it's not that I don't believe that there are some people on the production that unfortunately have an agenda to remake, you know, things that they see as problematic. Because we have seen some of the individuals behind the show in a producer's role, um, making statements about how, Tolkien's works need to be modernized and things of that nature. But I don't lay the blame for the show's failure at the feet of some sort of woke agenda. Many people do, including Nerdrotic. I blame the failure for this show on just bad writing and bad showrunnership. There was a lot of stuff that was bad in this show that had nothing to do with the token diversity and the virtue signaling. There was some of that in this show, absolutely, with some of the casting choices and etc. But there's a lot of other stuff that plagued this show that had nothing to do with that. And in my humble opinion, 90% of what was wrong with this show had nothing to do with woke agenda and everything to do with just bad writing, bad direction, bad lighting, bad all sorts of different things. And that's a different problem altogether. But let's read what his theory is. He says, "What if I told you that the Rings of Power did not start this way? It was never meant to be a woke intersectional disaster. It didn't have to have It didn't have not Gandalf. It didn't have repurposed hobbits. It didn't have Halbrand as Sauron, and it didn't have Warrior Galadriel. What if I told you this show is usurped by people like Lindsay Weber and Jennifer Salke? What if I told you that the fan attacks came from the top? More on that in my next Rings of Power video. Ooh, well, it's interesting. Um, hmm. Bolstering the rumor he heard that Prime Video will reboot the series moving forward, he speculated the show will see massive viewer fall off in the second season. He theorized it didn't need to be this way. I think we'd all be rooting for a good Lord of the Rings show, but that's not what this is. And I've said that before. If this was a good show, I wouldn't be making videos like this all the time. There wouldn't be anything to rant about. There wouldn't be anything to mock. It would just be something we would be looking at like Peter Jackson's films and going, oh my God, this was a masterpiece, right? Um, he says that's not what this is, however. It's an Amazon product and it has very little chance of succeeding with the same people after 2 years. He says, I'm guessing you're going to lose half your audience in the first episode of season 2, and it's just going to go down from there. I'm guessing you're going to end up a lot like Westworld, which just so happens to be another bad reboot production that just got canceled, except the big difference is Westworld had a good first season. Now here, this is again, I am not on the let's shit all over J.J. Abrams and bad robot productions. I'm just not in that camp. I'm sorry. I happen to have enjoyed many of the productions that Bad Robot has produced. Alias, Lost. I don't really give a shit if there are people out there who are like, the ending sucked. I don't really care. I liked them. So your opinion doesn't matter to me. Mine does. I happen to like those productions. I also like the new Star Trek films that J.J. Abrams did. My wife likes them. My brother likes them. All of my friends like them. Are they different than the original Star Trek? Sure, but that doesn't make them. Here's the saying that I keep coming back to: there's good Star Wars. It's literally the same thing for Star Trek and Star Wars. But the Star Wars quote is the one I love to use because it says, "There's no such thing as bad Star Wars. There's just amazing Star Wars films and not so amazing Star Wars films. But in between there, it's all Star Wars. And we're going to love it because it's Star Wars." And I'm the same way with Star Trek. All Star Trek is good Star Trek. It's just that some Star Trek is better than other Star Trek. I'm always going to be happy to see more stuff coming out around a franchise. And I am not one of those people who shits all over J.J. Abrams' bad robot productions and blames them for all of these issues. Have they had some missteps along the way? Sure. But they've also had great shows like Alcatraz, Almost Human, as a couple of examples. Westworld, ignoring the fact that it did get canceled for a variety of reasons. I just covered this on my YouTube channel the other day and said that I lament the fact that it was canceled. I was still enjoying Westworld. It had over 50 Emmy nominations and won Best Supporting Actress for Thandie Newton and a bunch of other awards during its first couple of seasons. And did it die off after the first couple seasons? Yeah, because they did things that weren't as interesting and they weren't as much of as a spectacle. It didn't mean it was bad. It was just went in a different direction than what many people had expected it to go. And a lot of people like to somehow point fingers at bad robot productions and be like, J.J. Abrams ruins everything. No, he doesn't. Look at the list of productions. I said the same thing about Amazon Studios. Look at the list of productions that Amazon has produced, the list of TV shows. It's so huge. Rings of Power being bad, Wheel of Time being bad adaptations, a couple of bad shows out of hundreds of good shows does not mean the whole tree is rotten. The same thing with Bad Robot. Just because there's been a couple of bad productions does not mean the whole tree is rotten. So this is where I kind of lose, I'm not into all this thing about how, it can't be coincidence that it's also a bad, robot production. He says, you might have had a chance if you just had a normal bad show and it didn't attack the fans, but you did, and now you're going to suffer the consequences of the perfect failure because that's what this is. The one thing Amazon did right was everything wrong. So I will agree that it was a very poor decision on their part to attack the fans. They made some pretty ridiculous statements, not the showrunners, the executive producers and the executives, the people behind the show made some pretty ridiculous claims about the fans and blamed, bot reviews and all this other stuff on the show's first 2 episodes not getting like 100%, then they blocked reviews on Amazon. There was a lot of things they did wrong. This goes into just the rest of the stuff we've already talked about with the gore stuff and the previous um, comment about an anonymous source contacting Bounding into Comics. It says here, Payne and McKay have made no sign that they're getting sidelined just ahead of the release of the season finale. They plan to focus on Sauron for season 2. We've already read all this stuff, so um, it's really interesting to think about um, whether or not it's actually going to be rebooted or not. The problem is if they do any sort of restructuring, it has to be done during season 2 because you can't wait for the viewership to fall off and try to fix it in season 3. You have to fix it between season 1 and season 2. And they have time if they're really going to be spending, the next year filming. They've got plenty of time to actually fix it, and you know. But the issue is you have the showrunners out there making statements like, "We saw this coming," you know. We saw the problems a year in advance. We knew all the things that need to be fixed, and we already did all the things right. So the second season is going to be even better than the first one. It's like they're just completely ignoring all of the criticisms. So if this rumor turns out to be true, cool. Um, I think that a reboot, however, I don't really consider it a reboot. It would be more of just a, hey, we're going to come in and make the second season actually follow the books, and we'll just consider the first season to be some sort of apocryphal tale. I don't know. Again, just a rumor. Love to hear your thoughts below. Drop them down there. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. And if you've got to the end, hopefully you want to support the channel because I do stay on the air thanks to the support of all my fans. I'm here live in the on the premieres, so you can feel free to ask me questions and everything else. Hit that super chat button, hit that sticker button, and support that way. You can also do super thanks after this video has been uploaded. There's membership options if you want to join as a member down there. We're doing lots of fun stuff for our members, including doing a rewatch of Battlestar Galactica right now. And every Monday at 11 a.m. I do the next Mondays of Middle Earth episode, so stay tuned for those. And there's also a Patreon page for that world map behind me. I mentioned I'm into game dev, and I'm also a writer. I'm doing that with my brother and my wife, some of our friends. Check all that stuff out. Until next time, everybody, if you get any more rumors, other stuff that you want me to cover, feel free to send them to me on Discord or ping me here on YouTube, and I'll just keep on plugging away like I've always been doing. Until next time, everybody, stay safe.